G'day. As gardeners, we know that winter's a great time to get outside, work the soil and prepare for warmer days ahead. I'm enjoying the change of season here in my local neighbourhood. But let's see what the rest of the team is up to this week.
Have you ever stopped to consider how beautiful the bark of some trees can be? Well, I'll be showing you 3 of my favourites.
And while plant growth might slow in winter, gardeners get busy, and I've got plenty to do at my place.
I'm all about getting the message of flies out there. I want to show people that they're useful and that they're really cool, and some flies are extremely beautiful.
I've travelled to the National Rhododendron Garden at Olinda to check out their Proteaceae section with an expert in the field of South African flowers, Rob Furness. It's a huge range of plants within that Proteaceae family, isn't it?
It is an amazing family. I mean, there's the leucodendrons, the leucospermums, the proteas, the ceruleas, mimetes, another great variety. Look at the variation within the leucodendron family itself. And with the beautiful yellow and then the dark burgundy and then the beautiful gypsy red over there in the background.
It's incredible, really.
Yeah, it is.
And not just the colours, but also the forms of the plants.
Yeah, absolutely. There really is something for each garden, whether it is the flower or the foliage or the height, there really is something for everyone.
Hey, Rob, this is a jungle of proteas.
It is, isn't it amazing?
That is unbelievable, the size of a dinner plate.
Isn't it beautiful? The king protea, it's so impressive. They've also got the beautiful whites as well. I mean, look at that, isn't that amazing?
Wow. Yeah. Each inflorescence is made up of so many tiny flowers.
And the birds get in there and absolutely love it.
How good are these cerurias? They're beautiful plants.
They are, they're amazing. Now, we normally recommend that they actually go in a pot, but look how well they're doing here.
And is that because of the really good drainage on the hill?
Yeah, it is. The Proteaceae family normally prefers a really nice free-draining soil, and that's exactly what we've got here.
Yeah. And how about this one?
Yeah, Cerulia pretty in pink.
Oh, that's just gorgeous, isn't it? Oh, wow, they really are blow your mind stuff, aren't they?
Absolutely.
It's lovely seeing these plants in the field, but Rob's brought along some special new releases to show us. Aren't they fantastic? When you see something like this, they stand out.
Yeah, they are. They are sensational, and particularly with a really bright pops of colour.
That's right.
They stand out, certainly on a day like today.
Where did a lot of these cultivars come from?
There's been a number of different breeding programs, and both in Australia and also overseas. With the cut flower industry being what it is, where there's a lot of natural variation anyway, a lot of growers will actually bring us in a new sport or a new mutation, and then we develop it from there.
How amazing is this colour of the leucodendron?
Isn't it beautiful?
What's its name? What's the cultivar?
Leucodendron Lime Magic.
Lime Magic. And look at that green cone in there.
Yep.
And again, the bracts are such a good contrast.
Yep.
And this is another one, though.
Yeah. Leucodendron Burgundy Sunset. And isn't it the perfect contrast?
Fantastic.
Yep.
And this is one of my favourites.
Yep.
I actually have got one of these in a pot. It's like the King Protea, but it's not.
Little Prince.
It's Little Prince.
Yeah.
I love the name.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good.
But it's great to go in pots or in the smaller gardens on the balconies, etc.
Fantastic.
Yep.
And that size pot would be ideal for it.
Perfect for
Pop it in and then this one's a different one again.
Yeah.
Still in the Protea family,
Yep.
but it's a Ceruria.
Ceruria Blushing Bright, it's one of my favourites. In August, when it comes out into full flower, it looks amazing. But all the way through June, July, when it's got these really tight buds, also looks beautiful.
Is it a big shrub?
No, only gets to just over a metre. It performs really, really well in a pot.
Now, this one is a different one again.
Yeah, Leucadendron Safari Sunset, but it's such a great performer.
And they make a very good hedge or a screening plant, don't they?
Yes, you can see it's got quite these long, straight stems and does really, really well along a fence line as a hedge.
Let's talk about pruning.
As much as it is a heartache to prune some of the beautiful flowers, it really is needed to keep the shrub in a really
Can
good
I
form.
do it?
Absolutely.
So you'd really go down, right down to about here, wouldn't you?
Yeah, look, the real basic recommendation we always make is from last year's point of prune,
Yep.
come up the length of the secateurs handles.
So there's the point of the last cut, and that's where you want to measure it from, just approximately. Around like that.
Yep.
Boom.
Done.
Thank you, I'll take that home. Put it in the vase. How good is this place, eh? You know, to have a wild garden like that filled with king proteas, you wouldn't see that anywhere, would you?
No, we're pretty lucky here,
Oh.
and they do have a wonderful display.
Recently, a gardening friend asked me, is it possible to put kitchen scraps underneath mulch and just let them rot away? Well, the answer is yes, but with some qualifications. Break up eggshells. Small pieces are easier for worms to eat, and the extra calcium helps them with egg laying. Things like rice, bread, pasta and meat scraps, well, they just encourage mould and vermin, so keep those out of the compost. And as for adding extra things like poultry manure to help break down kitchen scraps, generally they don't need anything at all. They'll have plenty of nitrogen and they'll rot quite quickly.
I've been asked if you need to water your garden in winter. Well, if you're in the northern part of the country, where it's the dry season, of course you do. But in southern parts of the country, where it's cooler and rain's more likely, it's less of an issue, particularly in open areas that are likely to get rain. If there hasn't been rain for a while, some of your tender plants, including veggies, may need a drink, so keep an eye on them. But keep even a closer eye on things like pots and plants that are in the rain shadow of walls and eaves and around the house, where they can dry out. So they may need a spot water, just with a handheld hose. And a good idea is to watch them closely for any signs of moisture stress, and better still, check the soil for dryness regularly. And that way, you'll know when they do need a drink.
We all enjoy plants for their flowers and their foliage, but there's another feature worth a look, and that is bark. There are so many beautiful varieties that can really give the ornamental value of flowers in your garden a run for their money. Deciduous trees are a great group of plants to choose for their bark. There's a wide variety of attractive trees with stunning bark. So even in the dead of winter, there's something to admire. The paperbark maple Acergricium is one of the best small ornamental trees there are. It's a slow-growing tree to 9 metres tall by 6 metres wide and provides a beautiful display of autumn colour. But check out the bark. It's an orange cinnamon colour that peels off in thin papery layers, hence the name. Acergricium does really well in cool, moist soils and in areas that have mild summers, so they're well suited to temperate regions. The Himalayan birch Patchoula utilis variety Jacquemontii is another great small to medium tree to 10 metres. It has the whitest bark of all the birch trees and likes similar conditions to silver birch, so it's adaptable to soil type and will grow in slightly wetter soils. It has a medium growth rate that is great as a specimen tree or planted in drifts if you have a bit of space. Its bark peels off in horizontal sheets, and on mature specimens, this presents itself as deep cracks. It really is a beautiful alternative to the bog standard silver birch. great evergreen tree to grow for its bark is the Chilean myrtle, or Luma apiculata. A lot of people will be familiar with it as a useful species in formal hedging, and it is. But I like it for a different reason. If left to grow, it'll form into a handsome, medium-sized tree that'll get to about 5 metres high. And when the bark peels, it peels to a coppery brown that almost glows. A really good way of growing your trees to enjoy their bark is to cloud prune them, which is lifting their canopies up to reveal the trunks and branches underneath. The Chilean myrtle here at the Gardens is pruned like this, and it's a really stunning example. So there you go. 3 varieties of trees that will really knock you off your feet with their beautiful bark. Something to think about for your own garden.
There's no better time than the cooler months to get some serious work done. And after all, doing stuff warms you up. Come on, Squidbug. We've got work to do. Today, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to prepare a bath for some asparagus and a bed for citrus. So, it's time to get the soil prepared. Winter is not the time for planting citrus. The ground is too cold. But it's the perfect time to lay the groundwork for spring. So I'm just going to give the whole area a light forking over, just to loosen the top of the soil. It's a really lazy way of preparing soil, where I just lay materials on top and let the biology do the work for me. So you just want to make sure you break up the crust and there's no hard pan. This is the first layer of my lazy soil technique. It's horse manure, and I shoveled it for free from the local stables. It's packed full of nutrients. It's really full of organic matter. It's perfect for the job. I've just got to get it on the bed. So a lot of people are a bit afraid of using horse manure. It's got a bit of a reputation for being weedy. And that's because, well, unlike a cow or a sheep, the seed or the food passes through the animal really quickly. And you do get some seeds at the other end. When they germinate, you just chip them back into the soil and you keep an eye on it for the first 6 or 8 weeks. It's really, really good stuff. So you want your layer, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 centimetres thick, but it doesn't really matter. Whatever you've got to work with is fine. Now, because it is really fresh, you wouldn't put it on existing plants. It is too strong. So pull it back from anything that is in the bed and keep it on the bare soil. This technique really is just composting on the ground, so you can add anything you can find. I'm recycling some of the plants I've already pulled out. And next, I'm adding leaves from the street trees. And because they might have some weed seeds in them too, I'll mulch it all with a layer of straw. That looks pretty good. All I need to add now is thyme. While it is too cold to plant things like citrus, it's bang on the best time to hunt down some dormant winter perennials. So things like asparagus, which is what I'm going to plant today. In winter, you can get your hands on these amazing dormant crowns. This is where the spears come from. If you go to pick some from the nursery, make sure you get the biggest, fattest in the barrel, and they'll tend to be the stronger plants. Now, because they've got these amazing octopus-like root systems, I use the octopus planting method. So you get a couple of trenches either side of a mound. So you actually drape the plant over the ridge. The roots are going to head down and the crown is up top. This one's got a slightly longer root system, so I'll sort of maybe dig it a little bit deeper. Spread them out. It's actually quite a big crown. I think I can cut this in half and get 2 plants out of it, so. That'll be great. Squeak, are you helping? All right. I'm also putting in some seed-grown plants, which will take longer to establish. It's best to resist harvesting asparagus for the first couple of years to let the plants build their strength. but I can't promise I'll be that patient. Now, of course, I need to mulch, and because asparagus is actually, as a wild plant, it's coastal, I'm going to use some seaweed. It's actually a really, really good source of minerals, and all of the guys in the soil, they love it. While plant growth will slow in winter, it doesn't mean you have to. There's plenty of great jobs you can get done, and a little bit of work now will pay dividends in the spring. So, get something done. Welcome to winter.
Whenever I come across an outbreak of plants, I can't help but stop and take some pictures to share. This verge garden's a recent discovery. It's in Bondi Junction and it's sprouting out of this concrete wall. This is nice. It's actually the work of hairdresser Joseph Capadonna, who lives opposite with his family. Nice agave, eh?
Hey, Costa! Buongiorno!
Hey, Joey, how are you?
When are you going to get a haircut?
I came to have a look at the garden. It's looking fantastic. Come and show me around.
Aspetta.
There's so many great collectibles scattered throughout the garden beds here, and now I come out to your street-side salon. It's got everything, even a chair.
Is it comfy?
It is comfy, but you're a hairdresser. When did all that begin?
Back in 1980, it all began, and gardening is a little similar to hair. I'm madly in love with both, which brings me to the #1 question. Let me cut your hair,
No
please.
way, no
Come
way.
on,
I'm
where
not
you
in here.
going?
Just tell me a little bit
Please.
about the garden. Where did it start?
It started with a clipping from Mum's place. We're going back about a year and a half ago, maybe. Yeah.
So it's not that long, really.
No, it hasn't been that long, but I have two very strong young sons that have helped me with the clearing out of what was once not a very happy place.
Yeah, what was here? Like just these melaleucas, and was that it?
That was pretty much it.
Succulents and foliage plants jostle for attention in this eclectic garden. I feel like we're leaving the street behind here. Oh, speaking of street, do I have to put money in the meter?
It's an honesty policy here, 2-hour limit. Strictly 2-hour limit.
Wow, I love the frame, an old sort of screen door. And
We are near Oxford Street. A little bit of Mardi Gras, doesn't go astray. Very colourful. But how good is this? My latest find, yesterday, my salon car park, Lazy Susie.
an old fan.
I love it.
Brilliant. And here, a staircase, and what, you've turned it into like your mini nursery.
Look, it is. It's been working for me fine, but it's since I got this staircase literally across the road, it's an old one that's been repurposed, and I love it.
And I like the fact that you've got the existing canopy of the melaleucas, and yet you've just built in and around them from the bromeliads down low up to the elderflower. And this happy plant, is there a story behind that one?
The happy plant was given to me by my father-in-law, Bapu, and that's actually remained there from the beginning and just got happier and happier. Honestly, Bello, this sanctuary that I've created have to be my favourite spot in all the garden.
And you've put a wagon wheel there, and there's little additions like the kookaburras and the owl and the bench itself and the urn. It really, the scale's perfect. You do feel cradled in here. Are you surprised by how the garden's sort of affecting you now?
No, it's affected me right from the beginning. What my boys and I have done together, it's infectious. How's that? Grazie. What I'm surprised is how people are warming to it and loving it and accepting it.
He has a lot of passion, this man. And, I mean, this is all from cuttings and passing through gardens. Oh, look at Brian, give me a cutting. What goes around comes around, so let's do this.
It's so peaceful. I come from a place where we see greenery all over, and it's quite nice to see something like this in Sydney.
It's amazing. And it's so nice. People walk along the street there and look at this. It's fabulous.
So could you see yourself living without a garden now?
No. I know this is very dysfunctional, but it has a lot of shape and form for me. It's in the eye of the beholder. I love it. But the answer is no. No way I could live without a garden.
What I love about flies is that they are the underdog, and everyone roots for the underdog. They've got a really bad reputation and people think they're annoying and a nuisance, but they do some of the most important roles in our ecosystem that we take for granted. I'm Dr. Brian Lassard, aka Bri the Fly Guy, and I work at CSIRO's Australian National Insect Collection. We have over 12 million insect specimens. As a kid, I was never really interested in flies, to be honest, but it wasn't until I had a really passionate lecturer in my undergrad that talked about forensic entomology, and that's when I was hooked that insects can be used to solve crime. Blowflies can lay their larvae in a corpse, and they're generally really accurate indicators of the minimum time since death. I get a real buzz out of describing new species of flies. It's great going through the insect drawers here at CSIRO and finding new species. I've been lucky enough to name and describe 18 new species of flies from Australia and New Zealand. So here's the first species I ever described. So I wanted to do something a little bit special. It had a bright golden abdomen, so I thought it was pretty bootylicious. So I named it after Beyonce. So here is Plynthena beyonce, the horsefly. This generated a fair bit of publicity that I did not see coming, and people were talking about flies in the media and just having a conversation about why flies are important. And it even went on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and it landed on the front page of the New York Times. Maybe not the front page, but... Flies are really amazing pollinators. Here's one species of Grevillea that's from Canberra, and here's an example of one of the bee fly pollinators. It's also from Canberra. And when the bee flies go in for a drink from the flower, their hairs get covered in pollen and cross-pollination occurs. Studies have shown that flies can actually carry twice as much pollen on them than the honeybee. It's because they're generally hairier. Believe it or not, but these are all flies. It's a great way of showing you the biodiversity of flies, or as I like to call it, fly-diversity. So this one you might think's a cricket, but it's actually a robber fly. And these catch things on the wing and can inject them with venom. And then we also have a tepulid, which isn't a mosquito. It doesn't actually have any piercing mouth parts, so it won't cause any damage. And then we have this funky looking thing that is a hammerhead fly. And the larger the antlers in the males, the more likely you are to win the respect of the female.
Hello.
And we also have these little guys called tachinids, or as I like to call them, little Christmas ornament flies, because they look like something you put on your Christmas tree. And they're actually really cool in biocontrol too, because the larvae can actually eat caterpillars from the inside out. I'm currently working on a group of flies called soldier flies, and they haven't been researched for 100 years. The adults are completely harmless and don't actually transfer any disease, so you don't have to worry about them getting on your food and making you sick. The adults don't actually eat, and they only last a couple of days. So the larvae is where all the exciting action's happening. They are eating machines. They are really, really quick at eating compost, and they actually outcompete the worm farms. They can eat about 0.5 gram of organic matter per day. They also could be the next superfood of the 21st century because they're 45% crude protein and quite nutritious. So we could feed them to our livestock or our pets and still give them a nutritious meal at the same time. Studies have actually shown that chickens prefer the taste of black soldier fly larvae, and they actually grow 15% larger. When I'm usually at a dinner party and people ask what I do, I start out saying I'm an entomologist. And then once they know what that is, I start divulging a little bit more information that I specialise in flies. And then if I really want to hook them, I tell them that in a world without flies, there would be no chocolate. And this is because the only known pollinator of the cocoa plant is a tiny little midge fly, about the size of a pinhead. And it's the only thing small enough to crawl through the flower in order to get a drink of nectar. And in doing so, its hairs get covered in pollen. So without flies, there would be no chocolate. I'm all about getting the message of flies out there. I want to show people that they're useful and that they're really cool, and some flies are extremely beautiful, and I'm just trying to share my enthusiasm for insects with the general population.
Some grapes. Pass them on to your brother.
Oh,
there you go. Well, that's it from us. I hope you take lots of inspiration from this week's show, and particularly from this man, Joseph, and his colourful and quirky garden. But for now, what do you say in Italian?
Salute.
Salute and ciao.
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 This garden really stands out from the flock because it's got some terrific ideas for small gardens. I'm going to talk to the designer who's got some great tips.
Gourds are amazing things. They come in such a diverse range of shapes, colours and sizes, but they're not just ornamental. They can be useful too. I'm going to show you how to make a gourd planter.
Recently, evergreen Peter Cundall had a 90th birthday. Hundreds of people turned up here at the patch to celebrate it with him, and I was lucky enough to have a chat.
Pumpkin.